Hello again, welcome to the second episode of the podcast series on Yakshagana. I have with me again Shridhara Hegde, 6th gen artist from Keremane, Yakshagana, based in Gunavanté, Honnāvara, coastal Karnataka. So please watch, hi Shridhara, I didn't give you time to say hello, sorry. So we had a very interesting first episode. My head is still abuzz from a lot of questions and thoughts. We left off on a very rare human virtue perhaps today, which is humility, Vinaya. And I think I want to start episode 2 with that point. So Shridhara, amazing answers. We digressed a lot is what I think you thought, but I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much. So you ended the conversation with the idea of humility, approaching any educational experience, learning experience with humility. So I think Yakshagana sort of substantiates that in a way, in that a performance is never just coming onto the stage and beginning to perform the minute music goes on or something, but it starts backstage with a lot of pujas, worship, bowing to a higher being and getting ready. So maybe you can start with that, Chowki and everything.
Yes, sure. So the green room in Yakshagana is called as Chowki Mane, and Chowki Mane is a sacred place. So it is artists sit in an straight line and an curve, so it is an ovular structure in which artists sit, and at one end of this oval there is Ganapati place, the place for Lord Ganapati or any important deity for which the Méla has faith in, usually Ganapati. One of the interesting aspects of the Devata in the green room or in Chowki Mane is that it is represented by one of the headgears of our costume. So there is no, traditionally there is no idol of that particular god. So if you happen to see an idol in a Chowki Mane, that's a newer development like people have. But traditionally, we would take the kirita, it's a headgear. So there are different types of headgears. So prince headgear, princess headgear, king's headgear, demon's headgear, and so on. So the king's headgear, kirita, mukuta, that among many, one of that mukuta or the kirita is chosen as Ganapati kirita. And this generally belongs to the head artist or the Yajamana of the troupe, the one who takes all artists together, leads the troupe, leader of the troupe, or the main character of the troupe. Okay. So this headgear is kept on a raised platform at the one end of the ovular shape, how the artists are sitting, and in between are the lights for them to get ready. They sit on both ends of these sides of these lights and one end. So on a raised platform, this kirita is placed, and so all the headgears and the gejje is ankle bells, right? Yeah. Stringed together. Those are kept near the Ganapati kirita on the floor. Near this thing, like it's like pada of Ganapati, and there is a worshipping, which is agamokta in nature, meaning how we do it in rituals, like in temples. So there is dhupa, which is incense sticks. Then there is deepa, arati, deepa we put, and also we do arati. There is naivedya, which is offering of eatables, and like coconut, rice, banana, and so on. And there is offering of pushpa. So this is panchopachara puja, like in Agamukta tradition.
5 things.
5 upacharas. Okay. So this puja is done to the Ganapati kirita. Okay, so this comes from the Vedic tradition. So after this, there is Gana Puja. And then there is Natya Puja. So this tradition of telling mantra, shloka, offering dhupa, deepa, naivedya, and after that Gana and Natya was also followed in temples. So if you look at temple architecture, so there is deity, and then there is place for pujari to sit and do the puja, and in front of that there is Natya Mantapa. If you go to Aihole, Pattakkal, and many of the ancient Banamasi, you will see a Natya Mantapa, which is circular, total circular.
Especially Hoysala architecture.
Yeah. Across India. So if you will find these in many other temples across India. So the Sangeeta, the music and the dance, art, everything, whatever we humans we have created, or whatever those knowledge that has come to us through various inspirations or generations knowledge, we offer a part of it or the best part of it to the gods. Okay, so the same thing happens in Yakshagana Chowki Mane also. So even if you look at 4 Vedas, for example, there is Rigveda, Yajurveda, Atharvana and Sama. Sama is singing. So there are multiple ways of singing the texts. So as you start from Rigveda and go to, so like in the Natya Shastra, it is said that Bharata took different aspects of drama from these 4 Vedas. So Mudra and Abhinaya comes from Yajurveda, the textual material of a performance that comes from Rigveda, music comes from Samaveda, and so on. So this is, and from all these elements, Bharata created the Panchama Veda, or the Brahma created Panchama Veda, which came to Bharata, right? So the Panchama Veda was created, and that was passed down to humans. So I mentioned this to show you that, as you progress in the Vedic tradition also, there are addition of multiple skills. In Yajurveda rituals, you have lots of mudra, which is not so much in Rigveda. But Rigveda, we admire literature of Rigveda. And then there is movement in Yajurveda, and then there is singing in Samaveda, so on, right? Even in Chowki Puja, so there is this Panchopachara Puja, and after that there is Ganapati Stuti Padya, which is usually in Kannada, Gajamukadavage Ganapage, Chelva Trijagavandhitage Arati Attire. And while Bhagavata sings that in front of Ganapati with instrument makers, all artists stand up, and you are free to sing with the Bhagavata, and that is Arati with Gayana to the Lord Ganapati, which is represented as one of the through Kirita, which is one of the costume. Okay, so that is done, and after that they all take their Gejje, Gunguru, and they take their headgears, respective headgears, and start the costuming. Before that, we start makeup before the puja, but in between somewhere the puja happens, and so the Ganapati Puja is where the actual performance of Yakshagana begins. So see again here, so what is the definition of performance? Right? We think that whatever happens on stage after the audience comes, and there is a point after announcement and everything, so we think that is the performance. But the definition of performance itself changes when you look at traditional dance dramas like Yakshagana. It starts in the green room, and that is when all artists, they start getting into the character with the costume and makeup. So all artists do their own makeup in Yakshagana, and with that looking themselves in the mirror, with every drawing that they do on their face, and with every costume that keeps coming on top of their body, slowly and steadily they get into the character. So I mean, even you had the experience of getting into costumes and makeup in the workshop, right?
Yeah.
So how was your experience? This concept of Chowki Mane being very sacred place is very ardently pursued in our Méla, in Idagunji Méla. That it's one of the safest spaces for women, children, and all. After the puja, until the Ganapati puja, we keep talking about other things while doing some basic touch up and everything. And after the puja, there is silence. So people or the artists who are getting ready become less and less talkative. Because you have to be you to talk like you, right? I mean, if you are becoming something else, right? So you are entering into the character.
All the characters.
Yeah. So, and after we get ready, actors get ready, there is Natya Puja in the stage.
Oh, okay.
So this is called as Purvaranga Vidhi or Sabha Lakshana.
This when the curtains are still closed?
No, the curtains are open.
Okay.
And actually, traditionally in Yakshagana, there is a handheld curtain, tere. This automatic curtain is a new thing. So, the Ganapati Kirita with the two tere holders with the tere, the handheld curtain, enters the stage.
Wow.
And even before that, so the musicians come and sit on their respective positions, Bhagavata, Maddale, Chande, and they sing, and there is percussion instruments, Méla. So there is rhythmic improvisation on Chande and Maddale. Bhagavatas are also sing, do some Sutipadya. And after that, there is Ganapati Kirita, which was consecrated in the green room, comes to the stage. And with that tere, which is along screen, handheld curtain, the Balagopala or Pitike Strivesha, so all these characters, they come and see, for example, Balagopala is two similar Vesha costume that are representative of small Krishna, young Krishna. Or Pitike Strivesha is representative of gopis. Okay, so they come. So I will tell you the connection with Natya Shastra also. So these are all, this Purvaranga Vidhi that is performed in Yakshagana is something that you will also see in Natya Shastra. When Bharata talks about how a drama starts, what are the things that, so there is stage puja also to ward off all the vignas or the problems that might occur. And then there is this Gayana puja, Natya puja, and then there is Asarita, where female characters come and dance. Right? So here in Yakshagana there is Pitike Strivesha. They come and they dance for various Sabhalakshana poems, and mainly they are praising Lord Ganapati, which is in the form of Kirita just behind them. They have come out of the tere and they are in front of the audience. So that happens, and after that Balagopala come and they dance. So I mean, if you look at See, these traditions are rarely you will see today in today's Yakshagana performance, which is unfortunate because they start with the story directly. So, Chowki Pooje still Melas are doing, but after that they start the story.
Natya Pooje.
The Natya Pooje, Purvaranga, Sabha Lakshana are all skipped. In our Mela, we have the tradition of doing one of these Sabha Lakshana pieces, either Balagopala or Pitikistri Vesha or this thing, because the entire Sabha Lakshana Purvaranga Vidhi itself would take 2.5 hours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because this used to be a whole night.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a whole night performance. Wow. So each everyone has their place. Like the Chande player has his time to improvise. Just that rhythm will be done. Maddale player will do his thing. The Bhagavata will sing, and so there is a whole music concert actually before the start of the play. And after that there is this Purvaranga Vidhi, where in this Balagopala, Pitikistri Vesha, there is a joker called as Hanumanayaka. Scholars say that he is a reminiscent of Sutradhara tradition in Sanskrit place. So in Sanskrit tradition, Sutradhara, who is a connector between who is someone who introduces context of the story. So Sutradhara is someone from this space and time, but he is somehow connecting you to that space and time, saying that, oh, here comes, oh, see how Dushyanta is lamenting, and oh, he is coming here, let's go and watch, or something like that.
Between Patradharis, the
Sutradhara is there. So Hanumanayaka is supposed to be a reminiscent of that tradition in Sanskrit play. Even in Kudiyattam, if you say Kudiyattam is a 1,000-year-old, more than thousands of years old, this Sanskrit Natak tradition, dance drama tradition from Kerala, which is done in theatres that are specifically constructed for Kudiyattam next to the temple. Yakshagana stage is what you call, it is put up and then it is destroyed. Actually, in Natya Shastra, there is no permanent auditorium. So, even in Natya Shastra, if you look at Rangamantapa, it is done with perishable materials. That's why you have temples, but you don't have Natyagrahas as archaeological evidence. You have Natya Mantapas, but Natyagrahas as described in Natya Shastra, which have stage, audience seating, green room, everything, the full-fledged auditorium. Because probably it was done like how it is done in Yakshagana. There is open paddy field, you put up the stage, you make the green room with perishable materials, like then you move on to next village, you dismantle everything, and the next day of the performance, there is only, reminiscent of what would have happened yesterday. So, so we were talking about structure of the performance. So, this happens, and this Hanumanayaka is also a jester-like character. Even in Kudiyattam, the jester comes before. The Sutradhara is also kind of jester. He talks about jokes and so on. This also, because see, first, when a lot of people have come together, you want to make the environment a little lighter icebreaker, and make them laugh and grab some attention, right? So Hasya is one of those Navarasas which you can create anywhere, and also it grabs attention and enjoyable, right? So that's how that Hanumanayaka character does that job. Some earlier in the Purvaranga Vidhi, there used to be Shiva Vesha, Ardhanarishwara Vesha actually, half male and half female. That used to come. Krishna Vesha used to come, and sometimes Brahma Vesha used to come. So Vishnu is seen in Krishna. Again, see, Ardhanarishwara, specifically Ardhanarishwara, they used to bring to stage. So again, this points out to the gender fluidity, right? So one person having half female and half male, that is shown in the beginning of the performance, saying that, this breaking of boundaries is something that we want to foresee through arts, maybe, right?
I mean, it was there long back. It's not a new thing. Right?
So one thing is that this concept itself exists in Indian mythology and pantheon of this Ardhanarishwara, that is there. And the other thing is, you make sure that this representation is shown before every performance in front of audience. See, we have so many gods, there is Durga, Kali and all. We don't bring everyone in Purvaranga, right?
Sure.
But we make sure that this Ardhanarishwara comes. That is also representative of, again, in Natya Shastra, what happens. So when, so there is a story before Bharata goes on describing elements of dance and so on. So there is a story of what was, how it was created and so on. So he took Tandava, the pure dance, Nritta aspect, which are, very strong and protruding in nature. So that kind of fierce dance was taken from Shiva, Tandava. Okay, and it was conceived by Tandu Muni. So that's why the word Tandava. So there is Tandava, but then when drama was done with the Tandava aspect, there was a suggestion that this is only, there is something left. Okay, so there is no softness, right? Fineness, yeah. This has to be there. And then by the grace of Devi, the Lasya part came. So here again there is a merger in the dramaturgy. There is a merger of divine masculinity and divine femininity, right, in the movement. So the Tandava and Lasya, right, and they are merged together. If you see, again, I remember in the last episode we were talking about how Yakshagana movement has grace, which is a quality of dance, and also theatrical movement, which could be non-graceful, right? So you can relate it as something like Tandava and Lasya. So this Tandava Lasya combination is shown in Ardhanarishwara as a representation. This is Purvaranga, yeah. And that is very important because how you start, the first impression is the best impression, right? And first impression is the most important impression that you are giving, because that sets your mind to whatever you are going to receive later. So that is very important. So even if you look at a lot of tantric rituals or Vedic rituals or indigenous ritualistic this thing, there is a whole set of karmakanda or the ritualistic set of shloka, mantra or kainkarya, the movement of hands and all, just to prepare you to do the ritual. After all that, sankalpa comes. For example, the pranayama, right? So that is a way of preparation.
Because it needs a different space of mind.
Yeah, to do it. So like for example, if you think japa, the nama japa or any mantra japa as your way of spiritual upgradation, then before japa there are so many things that you have to do. You can't just sit somewhere watching a sitcom, having some chips and start japa.
You bathe.
Yeah. So the preparation for you to do something important is very well regarded in Indian tradition, including Natya.
And that includes the audience, right? You are preparing the
Yes.
audience also.
Yes. Because audience are not from green room. Actors are from green room. And we have our things to get into the character and get into that mood in the green room. Now that spirit is brought to the stage. And that divinity is distributed on the stage to the audience. So what is even if you look at the very act of performance, we dress up in a green room and then we come to the stage, right? Whatever we have prepared in the green room, we distribute it on the stage in the audience, right? So the same thing goes for divinity or the spiritual aspect, the ritualistic aspect of Yakshagana. We do the puja, we consecrate Ganapati there, and then we expand the boundaries of green room to stage and then to audience. So the whole sabha, which has three components, the audience, stage and the green room, becomes one.
Yeah.
So that comes, the Purvaranga Vidhi is done, and then that Ganapati is taken back to the green room and he stays there. Okay. And after this, the story begins.
Wow.
So after this, all the actors come to backstage and then start entering as per their character. And one of the interesting aspects in Yakshagana is the lot of movements are circular in nature, and this circle goes from left to right from an actor's perspective, like it's clockwise, like how we go in the pradakshina around the god, right? The same pradakshina akara is followed in most of the movements in Yakshagana.
Enter and exit.
Enter from the left side of the stage. If your audience is in front of you, and if you are facing the audience, from your left would you enter, and from your right would you exit. Yeah. And even in the dance that you do on stage, your motions are generally in pradakshina from left to right.
Correct.
Okay. And this again points out to the temple connection that it has, and the sacred connection it has. So there are certain rare occasions where you would take the pradakshina, this thing, but they are not the most common dance, this thing. Okay. So this is now the story is presented. And one of the interesting aspects in story representation is that every character has a traditional entry. Vodolaga for kings and kings, basically. Vodolaga is setting up of the court of a king, basically. So there is tere entry. So they enter with the handheld curtain. There is a way of opening the tere and entering. And this also happens for demon characters. Any significant character in the story usually enters with a tere. Like they have a grand curtain entry. Means they are important in the story. Okay. So that's how it is. And there is no blackout and scene 1, scene 2 in Yakshagana. Okay. So it's once it starts, it's a continuous thing until it ends. So no matter whether it is from dusk to dawn or whatever. Okay. So there is no point in traditional authentic Yakshagana performance where music and lights, everything switches off, and no, nothing like that. So lights are always on. So if there are no characters, there will be bridge music which will be done through rhythmist, percussionists, or there will be something that Bhagavata will be singing related to the story and so on. So this is Vodolga or Patra Pravesha. And this happens, and then if there is no one else on stage, see, for example, if Ravana enters, and if he enters with his bala, we say, means right hands, means his other powers, like court people, others, all these people, then maybe he will not do this. There is a conversation with Bhagavata, the singer, that character does after the grand tere entrance. Okay. So if there are other people, other characters, they might not take it. But otherwise, what happens when a character does a grand entry alone, and after the tere opening, they do a conversation with the Bhagavata. And this Bhagavata now is playing the role of audience. Okay, so he asks, hey, who is this on stage? Or, hey, who is it here? Something like that. And then the character says that, who do you think is the king of Lanka? Then he says, We have heard it is Ravaneshwara. Oh, I am Ravaneshwara. I am here. And then Bhagavata asks, why are you here? Or why did you give the Grand Tere Oddolaga entry? Like, what's up, basically? And then he starts telling that why he is here. So this is when he connects, he tells about his own story, backstory, and brings it till the point where the next story is going to happen, right, in his life. And this is, so there is one more aspect which we will touch upon. So no dialogue in Yakshagana is written, it's all improvised. Yeah, the dance is improvised, the expressions is improvised. So here the character might start from, say if I am Ravana, then I might start from my birth. Or if I might start from an incident which is linking or a reason for why this story is going to happen, something like that. I might start from Brahma, where the whole universe begin. So it's just, you have to talk the story of the beginning, any beginning, your life beginning, this incident beginning, or whole universe beginning, or this yuga beginning, okay, or yesterday's story, what happened yesterday. You know, Mandodari told this to me and that's why I am here. Or Shurpanaka told me that she was, her nose was cut and I want to take revenge, or something like that. So that's very near to the today's occurrence, right?
Got it.
And it's all improvised, so it's up to you. So, and with this, the actor is also introducing the character's perspective of the story. Okay. So, for example, for Duryodhana, it was, or Dushyasana, it was very natural to take the sari of Draupadi in front of everyone because they own her and they thought that it is their property. Okay. But now, when Draupadi, say if she enters, when she is talking about her story, then she has a very, her own perspective, feministic perspective of what is. She questions. She can do that. She can. That is another aspect. She can question the other characters in the interaction with other character. But I'm just while on the performance. But now I'm just talking about the introduction. Yeah. Ravana, for example, who is usually seen as a bad character, could tell his story from his perspective, which is so convincing that you will feel, oh yeah, he has done like everyone else. If I were in his place, I would have done the same thing. Like that he can project himself in his introduction of the character. So like that. So you can talk the same for Wali, for example. He will come and we have to see that when you read a story, when you create a character, until you create a character, it is you who is creating. But after you create a character, it will start its own life journey. Like I am saying in Indian context of epics, because art forms like Yakshagana take the story that is written and then they improvise on it. So now there is a possibility of character's point of view for the story, which could be very different from how you would have read as a third person, or how the poet would have written as a third person perspective on the story. Right now you have an insider's perspective of the story, right? So
it is not a set script.
Which need not be a set script. So I could say, being Wali, that because I am powerful, I am entitled to you exploit. Because I have the power, no one else can question me. So if what I was doing was wrong, shouldn't there be an entity which should be questioning, which is not there? That means it is whatever I am doing in my understanding is unquestioned, right? What would you do? I mean, he might ask audience that, or even if you are doing a wrong thing, until someone points that this is wrong, would you know it's wrong? No, right?
Logically it is sound.
Yeah. I mean, he is presenting his perspective on the story, right? So all these things can happen, or he might skip. He might say that, I don't want to go so much into the introductory part. Let's start the story, and maybe somewhere in between the story, in front of another character, will I try to bring all these things. So for example, if you are someone who would like a dialogue than a monologue, you wouldn't go on this, and you would like to bring it in a dialogue in between two, something like. So all these possibilities are there. So this is the introduction of characters, and there is a introductory dance, and introductory these ways of this thing, and after that the story happens in Yakshagana. We don't choreograph and direct a story and present it in front of the audience. The story happens on stage, because we are all improvising, so, and every time it is different. So
it's like the manodharma, as they say in
singing,
right?
Yes, in singing. So, but it's a manodharma at various levels. So Bhagavata is improvising, Madhale guy is improvising, Chende guy is improvising, this guy who is actor, he is improvising, and the actor in front of you is also improvising. So the whole Méla is improvising on a particular story. So there is one interesting thing in Yakshagana, that if you have same set of characters, I mean cast, you do the same role today, I will do the same role, Bhagavata is singer, musicians are musicians, the same story. We do it multiple times in the same location, in the same village, okay, and even then you will have same audience, seeing the same story with same cast every day, because every day it's different. So today I am Subhadra and you are Balarama, and I will ask some question to you, okay, on in some context. So Balarama wants to make an arranged marriage with Subhadra, okay, but she has love for Arjuna. So I will throw some argument at you today, which you might not be expecting, but you will somehow skip that, okay, for today's sake. But tomorrow when we do, you are prepared for it. If this question comes, then it's my turn to get surprised.
Wow. And the kind of presence of mind it needs, it boggles my mind.
Yes. Right?
Be ready.
Yes. So there is a whole sub-genre or sub-art form of Yakshagana which developed on Vachika part of Yakshagana. Vachika is the conversational part. So the dance drama is the main format, where there is costume, expression, dance and so on. It's called as Tāla-maddale. So in Tāla-maddale, like we are talking, right? So the characters or the people who are doing the characters sit and they talk, and there will be musicians. They will sing the same poems from the same prasanga, but we will talk and build the story. In the Yakshagana performance, they are Patradhari. In Tāla-maddale, they are Arthadhari. Artha of the poem, that is sung. The meaning, probably it would have started from this tradition of telling the meaning of the poem. But then when this dance drama came up, so this also became a drama tradition of assuming the character and improvising on it as any 2 character, 3 character or so on. So there is a lot of scope for such debates, questioning, and because that is Vachika Pradhana, right? So the dialogue important form, and a lot of people bring in philosophies, their own personal views and philosophies, and also the philosophy of Indian philosophy's perspective. So anyway, so there are 2 ways of approaching it. So even there is a different advocates. In Tāla-maddale, there are different advocates for how it should be improvised. So some people say it should be Patra Pradhana, that means character centric and emotion centric argument. Some people say it is Shastra centric. It should be textual, argumentative, that should be the argument. So basically, emotional argument and intellectual argument. Which one to follow and how much to follow? So all these debates are there. These are outside of the art form. People, because you are improvising, right? So you can take different paths. So I will share an interesting incident of Taalamaddale. So wherein, okay, so what happens is Rama and Sita, they are in forest, okay, and golden deer comes and goes. Sita gets distracted. Sita asks Rama to get the golden deer. Rama says, no, I can't get the golden deer. And Sita asks why. She says, that is all demons playing with your mind, don't go. Okay. Then she says, no, you think they are demons, they are not, it's a golden deer, go get it. So this here is a conflict, right? So this conflict in some Taalamaddale performance went on and on and on. You know where it went? It went about the Advaita Vedantic philosophy on one side, saying that whatever you see is Maya, whatever you see is illusion, don't believe, don't go behind that. So this is on the Rama's side. And on the Sita side, he has taken the other path, Vastavavada or Nastikavada, saying that why would you like to believe in something that you can't see and touch, like you ask in science. So something that is not verifiable through experiments, why do you assume things about it? And now here this Rama is talking about illusion, Maya, Leela, and all, Vedantic philosophy, or even Buddhists talk about Maya and how to liberate. The path to liberation is what I am saying, like don't go beyond these temporary excitements like this golden deer. Okay, these are all demons. But you say without distraction or without such colors, what is life? You are talking about life of an ascetic, but we are samsari. We are in this world. We are here to enjoy. Why don't you go and you interact? Are you scared? Is it because you are scared that you are defining everything as Maya and you are so you see development of arguments. So this is, but that episode went too long. Okay, you know what happened later? The person who was doing Sita, he said, yeah, okay, I agree with you. I don't want golden deer. He said, what will you do? The story has to continue, right? Now this guy, he has to flip his own argument, saying that I know you are saying this for argument's sake, but I understand your inner emotions. Now let me go and get the
Otherwise the story is ending.
See, whatever you do, whatever digressions or this thing you do, this is not Vakyartha. Vakyartha is where these debates between all this Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, all these Indian philosophies, Nastika, Bauddha, they all sit together and debate. No. So there you can just hold on to your argument for infinity, but until you this thing fail in the argumentative thing. But here there is a story.
The story has to.
The story has to go forward. See, this is there is an other context to this all this. So
much about performance. Right?
Yes. So anyway, so that was so this was about improvisation pattern. The same improvisation can happen in dance, expression, and especially the music in Uttar Kannada style. So there is a lot of stress on improvising on Sahitya, like Manini Maniye Bare. So that is Manini means women, Mani means gem, Bare means come here. So this is the line, right? So this could be done in different ways. So Manini Maniye Bare. So, and you can also say that you women, a gem among the women, come here, and like this. So different. So what the Bhagavata does is he keeps on repeating the Sahitya for you. He will just say that line, how many ever times you want to express it in various formats or various meanings, whatever meanings that you want to give as an actor, you are free to take so many avartanas, rhythms of cycle, to express it. And that varies from performance to performance. So there is this manodharma in acting also, manodharma in dance also. So there are set patterns of dancing in Yakshagana, but there are many such choreographies, traditional choreographies, and you can choose each of them during your performance on stage. And then you can improvise on it. You can take a bit from this traditional choreography and from this traditional choreography and make a dance, your own dance on stage. So people do it all the time. So that is there. And nobody knows about your, this is not rehearsed. So musicians have to pick, they have to pick up with you. They should, usually the rhythm instrumentalists say they look at your feet and the Bhagavata looks at your hands and mudra. And beyond all that, there is a subtle communication between artists and all these instruments and musicians, which help them. And again, like other, for example, if you look at Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi, the musicians are on the side of the stage, one side of the stage, where they can clearly see the artist what he is doing, right? He or she is doing. But in Yakshagana, in Kathakali, in Kudiyattam, and many of the, in Terrakoto, all the sister art forms I said, right? So all of them, the stage format, the stage blocking of the musicians and actors is same. Like musicians sit here in the same order. So on the first there is a singer, and then there are percussionists, like that. So, they have to understand the artist from the back side, right?
You can't even see the face.
Yeah, you can't see the face. You might be able to see the face when the actor is turning, but that is not given, right? So all that is there. So this is the performance structure that we were talking. And there is so many, so we came to improvisation section, but also earlier, as I was mentioning, there are so many elements from Natya Shastra which are done. So now this is story, right? So this story ends. So after the story ends, there is a person who is in Stri Vesha will take an arati, comes to stage and does Mangala. So in the end on stage, the performance hasn't ended. I will tell you how it ends. So he takes the arati and does the arati to the audience. So because see, he doesn't do it in the beginning. He does it in the end. In the beginning, we do God's puja and then we do Stuti Padya of the God. But in the end, after the show has happened, the wisdom and knowledge is transferred to the audience. Now the knowledge or the wisdom realm or the spiritual realm has included the audience totally. So that the divine or the good thing of the art is in the eyes of the audience. So the God is also in the audience. That's why do the arati to the audience.
And also maybe as gratitude.
Yeah, of course. See, that is there. See, you can, I took that layer as an obvious layer and talked on this. Of course, gratitude. It's because they are there, we are here from actor's side, right? In every aspect, whether it is financially, organizationally, or because of their appreciation, because they can understand what we are doing what we are doing. So many other things. With all these layers, there is also this non-material layer wherein there is dispersion of the understanding that now this spiritual energy has gone through audience, and this knowledge has gone through audience, and they are eligible for an arati, which was earlier done to the Ganapati in the first, right? So this is done with the Mangala. So in our group, all artists come to stage and go. Sometimes that might not happen. And now this arati is taken inside again to green room, and that same arati is again done to the Ganapati in the green room, which is Mukuta, the kirita of the leader or the head performance of the troupe. So when this Chowki Pooje, the second Chowki Pooje happens in the green room, that's when the performance ends. That's when we remove all our costume. With removal of all our costume and makeup, does the character go out, or do we step out of the character? Right? But it is one interesting thing is that first we do this in the beginning, we do arati to Ganapati, and then there is Natya Puja on stage. But after the story, we do arati to the audience, and then bring that arati to green room and do the puja again to the Ganapati. And that you can see it's circular in nature, again cyclical in nature, right? Come back to the same point and remove all that. See, like you said, so there is some you almost said spooky, right? So there is this strange feeling of getting into the characters, getting into the story from other time and space. All these rituals that are embedded in the performance help us get in there and get out safely. And these are very important even important for actors. Like, so for example, so there is this whole concept of method acting in the modern, right? But have you seen side effects of a lot of actors who have gone through this method acting? So this method acting was inspired from these Asian traditional art forms. So there is this points and point of view technique and all, where you try to you make your body ready for the performance physically, and in method acting you try to dissolve your ego with the ego of the character. But okay, you do this. So this is method acting. I always think is Abhimanyu's way. Okay, you somehow get inside Chakravyuha, but you don't know how to come out of it.
So mental health wise, this is a good way of dealing with it, right?
Yes. That's why we might not appreciate all these things, ritual. I mean, if you don't believe in God, or if you think the only story is important, you might not do all these things, but they are there for some other reason which you might...
Symbolic.
Yeah.
Like symbolic, right?
With all that, see, when you... so I was... when I was learning about psychology and neuroscience, so I was looking at ways of getting earworm out of your head. You know what is earworm, right? Yeah. So there is some line or some song that gets stuck in your head, and it goes on and on and on. You are not able to get out of it. Even if you do something else, you come back and then the same song is in your head. So what are the ways of getting out of it? Is to actually pursue that song. I mean, I got to know by reading books and other things, so people have suggested that to pursue that song till the end, where that song ends, no?
Oh, and then you let go.
And that song lets you go, or you let go of that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Sure.
So you give a place to the song that is in your head, so it is there for some reason. You end it and then it goes. So I see this as something very similar. You started with a ritual. That's when you started getting into the character. You do that ritual again as an ending offering. Now it is out of you. So, So there is a layer of psychology, and this is not like, okay, some guy sitting somewhere writing saying that, oh, this should be done, this should be done. So these practices are embodied through years of practitioners' experience and generations of practitioners' experience. Okay, maybe we are not able to talk about it in the terminologies that we think as scientific or we think as logical in today's dictionary dictionary of things, but if we make an effort to go out of our own dictionary of meanings and you just again coming back to the approaching it with humility, then a lot of these things will start making sense to you.
It's not about getting hung up on words, right? It's not about, oh, I have a problem with that word or rhetoric. It's about trying to dive deeper into that phenomenon, the idea, than just getting hung up on words, I think.
And even after engaging with so many years of experiencing that particular phenomenon or going inside or seeing why people are doing it, or after embodying that, even then if you see a problem, then you would have hit the ground, or where there could be a problem. But you can't do it just on the face of it, is what I am trying to, right?
Completely understand.
Yeah. Just like you wouldn't do it on any serious field, like would you comment on mathematical problems by yourself, seeing that this is that? No, you have to go through years of experience. Somehow we have that understanding for certain subject, and for certain subject we already know what it is.
Yeah, basically rebellion for the sake of rebellion is quite boring actually. Come on, we should move on, I guess. And also humility to respect that, right? It is endured for so long for a reason. So you're denying collective human wisdom now. I mean, that's a lot of arrogance that I see there. Anyway, wow, that's another discussion for another day. But no, interesting that you brought up a lot of mathematical, scientific and neuroscience references, because Shridhara here is actually going to answer my next question that's about his personal journey, because your academic background is starkly contrasting to this very abstract world of art. You have studied physics, neuroscience, and I don't know what not. So how did that happen for a boy from a small coastal town called Gunavanté to Bengaluru and beyond, and then again back to Gunavanté? This reverse migration is very rare these days. Everybody wants to go to the big cities and make it big and everything, but here you are, you have retraced your steps back to your childhood.
So from childhood, I was very keen on exploring the world around me and exploring it with logic and sensitivity, and to the last detail. So my mother always, even today, tells that if there is a description on a flower, my son goes to the roots. Okay, and I didn't score. I was on on the score basis. I was an average student. Only there were some exceptions when I was first rank and so on. It's because my 2-mark answer is 5-mark answer, and my 5-mark answer is 10-15 mark answer, and I could answer only 3 questions out of 10 questions in a given time. Because I have to think about it, I have to write my own answer for it, and I have to tell the context of it. I have to tell the whole story basically to any question in the exam paper. And every time I used to get scolded by teachers saying that, what are you making me read here? Even if you write 10 pages, I can give only 2 marks to you. Anyway, so that was the kind of approach that I had to any subject.
I hope some of your teachers are watching this.
Anyway, so I mean, see, even they are part of the system, right? So I mean, that's how they are supposed to do their job. Anyway, so I used to do all kinds of experiments with all plants, animals that I see as a kid. Yes, I have done like, yeah, it might sound cruel and all, but that was how I explored. I used to take ants because they were plenty in number, and I would put a lot of different types of liquid that is available in the house, and see how it reacts and all. But I mean, and then get beaten by my parents, not for wasting things on in the house, and the other for doing this pranayams.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought that this exploration. When I asked people, they said scientists do such kind of explanation. So I thought I will become scientist and I will do experiments like this, and my inquisitive questions and all those would get answered there. I also like doing art, and but somehow the logical rigorosity and the openness, it's rather the culture of science that attracted me, or the culture of doing scientific research, or the logical clarity of the subject that I feel now. When I look back, it has attracted me more.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, even in the context where it is defined. You define your variables, you define your assumptions, and you are not afraid of your assumptions broken or something like that. You have multiple theories, you have multiple viewpoints, and yeah, you are free to ask any question, and you question anything and everything, you explore, do experiment. Okay, so that's how science is done. But later I discovered that's how science is not done in most of the places. And also when you cross certain points, like when you are doing PhD, you can't just go about any leaf or any star and ask questions and just be explorative like how you would have imagined like kid. So that's also something that I learned later. So anyway, so all of this pushed me towards science, wherein like if you ask the same kind of question in humanities or say history or something like that, then I mean there are very few people who have a very rigorous methodology of doing humanity research, historical research with the scientific rigorosity, and it's even rare to get to interact and maybe learn from them. So the kind of things that you would get in school or even college is very different with other subject. But because in science and mathematics this discipline of approaching the subject is built into the how subject is done or taught, so there is, and I went into that. So I did my bachelor's in physics, and along with that I used to visit, I did it in Bangalore. I had the opportunity to visit Indian Institute of Science, Jawaharlal Nehru Planetarium, where there is an interesting open lab in the underground of Jain Planetarium where you can go and do whatever experiment. When I did my college experiments, we were instructed to do what and all. Like the only thing that was open to us was to fill that column of numbers according to our experiment, which was so boring for me. But this lab was where you go and you design your own experiments. You go by your question rather than what is defined as an experiment, which is not how it's done in college, in graduate college. The experiment, instrument, tabular column, everything is set already. Only thing is you have to put the numbers, and if your number is not matching the graph that was already this thing, your experiment is wrong. Okay. Anyway, so I didn't like that part, but then this was interesting, and then I did some internship in National Center for Biological Sciences, NCBS TIFR, on how group of, so I begin with physics, right? So then later I looked at computational aspects of biology. So how ant colonies figure out how do they find a solution for a problem? Like if there are two sources of food at two different distances, how will an ant colony decide on which where to go? See, at the end of them, I mean, if you look at ants, end of it, everyone is going in one direction. Okay, there is not like 50-50, nothing like that. So, and there is no one with an access to Google Map or with some other instrument saying that, oh, this is at this distance, this is at this distance, this has so much quantity, this has this much quantity, and this is the better. There is no central authority like that. They figure it out as a group.
Yeah.
So I worked on that, and then I did another biophysics internship at ICTS, International Center for Theoretical Sciences. I was a SN Butt fellow there. We looked at how active particles in a fluid, like a passive particle is a dead particle in a fluid like water, which does some random motion, but when you have some living entity like bacteria or even a charged entity in water, then they don't do this random walk that non-living things show in fluid. So, but they don't do a straight line walk also, like they don't go from A to B in a straight line, but they start at A and they end up at B. So it is called as biased random walk. So I mean, now I can connect that with the structured improvisation in Yakshagana, right? Because improvisation could be random, but then where is tradition then? It looks like two opposite ends, right? Yeah. So there is a structured improvisation in Yakshagana, like there is biased random walk in active matter. And this word bias is not bias in science, okay? Sure. So it just means that it looks random in a short interval of time, but after a point it actually reaches its destiny. That's what it means when it says bias. So I did that, but till then my work was mostly computational and physics based, and then I did master's courses. I took courses of masters in IISER Pune as a part of my program there, and where I explored computational neuroscience. And in this process, I started with physics. I never thought I would do biology at all, but then actually being a physicist, I had this arrogance of biologists are not as rigorous as physicists. Okay, a lot of physicists has this thing, because in physics systems are so well defined, which is not in biology, because the way it is, the complexity in biology makes it so. And in that transition itself, I have learned so many my biases breaking down. So we think science as one thing, and all scientists as these, extraordinarily logical beings with certain way of thought, with experiments and clear mindset. No, nothing like that. Even inside science, when you go across fields, their approach to subject and their beliefs of doing what is right and wrong in science is very, very different. Yeah. Okay, like experiments, designing, the error tolerance, how much error would you tolerate in biology is very different from how much would you do it in particle physics or theoretical physics. So all that, okay, so that was my work with complex systems, and I did computational neuroscience in IISER Pune. I learnt certain things. I didn't continue my PhD in IISER Pune. I was supposed to, but I didn't. So, but I learnt how this transition happens. So my transition from physics to biology was a toy model for my transition from science to humanities. Okay. So it is a projection of same losing the boundaries from physics to biology, from science to this thing. So that has helped me a lot in approaching a lot of subjects in humanities with a lot of humility. So and that was my my postgraduate education. That's it. And after that, I came back to Bangalore and did my diploma in choreography from Natya Institute of Kathak and Choreography, an institution established by Guru Dr. Maya Rao, who is guru for my father and my grandfather. So my grandfather was one of the first students of Maya Didi when she started her choreography course in India after her work in Russia. So I was fortunate to be a part of that course, and her daughter guided us, Madhu Didi guided us through the course. I have learnt Kathak before that when I was doing my bachelor's, but in the choreography I got a larger perspective on how the philosophies of Indian performing arts, especially on dance side, and we also did some Sanskrit dance drama. I also did some contemporary play there, or a dance performance there, and so many experience, and we sat together, read Natya Shastra in a structured manner. So this has helped my father and my grandfather also when they did their choreography and came back to Yakshagana and did their work. So their knowledge of this, zoomed out view of Indian and world dance, and the principles of dance of the world and of the India, and the history in the books and the experience of learning different movement techniques has helped them, and likewise it has helped me a lot. So after that I came back again to my native place to join my father's troupe, Idugunji Mahaganapati Yakshagana Mandali, and since then I have been learning and performing with my dad across India. I mean, my education in Yakshagana began way much early. Like we were, like for my father and grandfather, whether I attended the school was secondary. Whether I attending Yakshagana class was much more important for them. But my mother was on the other side. She was like, oh, you should do school, you should get this academic education and probably get into a job that gives you stable income, because she has a different perspective of running the house with art being main profession, and that is a little more difficult, especially if you are in a rural area. It's very difficult to sustain. So I went in that path and then took a digression and came back. And the reason for the digression is again multifold. So one is that I thought doing science is the best thing for me to be happy, because it's so explorative and inquisitive in nature and so on. But I somehow found that not doing art creates an equal vacuum inside me which I couldn't bear, one. And at the same time, my perspective of how science is done also changed when I actually entered Scientific Research Institute. The way academics works, that is different. There are certain things that you can't do, and there are certain things that you can do, and that path started becoming less and less interesting. I am still interested in science, and I am still interested in scientific problems, scientific concepts, all of that. But I felt that the academic pursuit in science is something that I don't want, or it's not something for me, not my cup of tea. Maybe I love teaching science even today, but doing PhD, doing postdoc and publishing papers, joining a lab and becoming a scientist in that way is not something that I do enjoy, but there is more enjoyable set for me. I'm fortunate to have this artistic realm around me which I feel more enjoyable. and also the sense of purpose. I find it in doing in Yakshagana. See, when I did choreography, I was also thinking of branching out to any other performing art like Kathak or contemporary. I have been playing tabla since my childhood. So my mom is a Hindustani vocalist, so we jam occasionally since my childhood. But among all that, I felt this Yakshagana is more interesting and purposeful and meaningful for me. For example, in science, yes, I did all that, but there would be many people who would be doing all the things that I did, and also there could be someone else who can easily replace my place in whatever I was doing in the academic. And we were writing grants, being in a scientific research institute where our institution was suffering from fund shortage and crunch all the time, and we had to write grants here also. So I felt that there is a sense of purpose in coming back to, because there is this legacy of so another interesting aspect I will mention here. So this digression and coming back to the family tradition has happened with my dad, my grandfather and my great grandfather too. So if you look at the autobiography of my great grandfather Shridhara Hegde, so he tried anything and all the jobs that were available for him at his disposal at his time, and then found Yakshagana to be his calling and also something that supports him. Like he did driving, he did a lot of other jobs, and he, of course, we have some agricultural, and he did agriculture. So all other things he tried. My grandfather was a Patel in the Gram Panchayat. So Shambhu Hegde. So very government job with salary at that time. So and then he became lecturer or a teacher in a nearby educational institution, which was also a salaried government institution. That also he left, and then he did choreography and came back and did this thing. My dad went on to do LLB, law, yes. So
did science.
And my dad has a very interesting way of recalling it. So when he, in his law class, when teachers were telling section 420 or 640 or 370, he was hearing takademi takita and all the gunguru sound and everything. So he left that and went on to do choreography and came back. So my experience is little different. When I was doing science, I was just doing science, but there was this, like I mentioned, there is this feeling of being lost, even though I was pursuing what I thought was most important for me in my life, the exploration. So, and then rerouting.
Thank you for sharing, because a lot of people will be able to relate to that, I think, this sense of being lost. It's not an easy thing to confess. So
and my family, especially my dad, has been a very steadfast support for me. I mean, so when I said I was selected for these institutions to do my work, my mom was very happy. My dad was, okay, go do whatever you want. But when I said I'm coming back, and he was so happy. So you need that family support, and that, even if it is even if it is not vocal support, there has to be an acceptance for letting your children do art for the profession and so on. So that was there in my family, though the second and the third circle and everyone else in my family, relatives and all, were not really happy with my decision. Felt I'm stupid.
No, it's not fashionable even today, and in your case, shout out to Shivananda sir, because your geographical location itself is your biggest challenge and your strength also in a lot of very contrasting ways. So when it is not fashionable, when everything is conducive, you have more challenges here, and even then you have the support. So I think it's really extraordinary.
Yeah.
Happy for you. Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened, and like that, so now we are here.
How long has it been since you moved back? And you're
So I think it was just before COVID. So I came back to our home, and within an year COVID struck. So we were stuck.
2019, 20.
Yeah, 20.
4-5 years.
Yeah. So that was also challenging. That I left all that and came back, and then there is COVID. We don't have performance. We are sitting in home.
Yeah.
What to do? Like there. So right there was a challenge. Not just for me, for my father, for my Méla, for everyone who is performing. There was a big challenge. Then I was again thinking, did I do the right decision?
Yeah.
Because my friends were doing research remotely with their computers and so on. I couldn't perform. So again challenges, and maybe that's how Lord Ganapati tested our interest and dedication or something like that. I hope we have passed, or I don't know how many exams we have to face, but we are here doing it.
You would be there anywhere, any field, right? So all the best anyway. Yeah, I know. After a personal journey being shared like that, I have another question, because this word was mentioned a lot, Méla, right? So, Idagunji Méla, Méla translates loosely to troupe, if I'm not wrong. But traditionally, there have been many different kinds of Mélas, right? So,
Correct.
Before we wrap up episode 2, maybe you can just quickly go through the...
Yeah. So, I mean, I will also mention one more thing. You were, which I should have mentioned before maybe, but you mentioned about geography, right? How that affects. So, we were geographically isolated, and that has also helped us in preserving as a community, as whole coastal Karnataka and Western Ghats has a lot of indigenous culture preserved because of this geographical isolation from the mainland Karnataka, which is in the plains, right, on the Deccan Plateau. Yeah. And we can go more deeper into the relationship between geography and culture maybe later, but yeah, that is an interesting aspect to and coming back to Méla. So the Méla in Kannada refers to a gathering, okay, and Mandali and Méla are used interchangeably, and Mandali means an organization, sort of, and this is the same word that is used in Marathi also. Mandali, this Ganapati Mandali, Ganesha Mandali, and all, so many Mandalis you will see in Marathi culture also. There also it represents an organization or a group of individuals with a purpose or a specific task that they would do in a regular basis or something like that. So this Méla or Mandali represents a troupe or an organization. In this context, it is Yakshagana Méla or Yakshagana Mandali. So our Méla started in 1934 in British India, so it's completing 90 years in 2024 by my great grandfather Keremane Shridhara Hegde, and that has contributed in lots of ways, in lots of aspects, including in freedom movement and so on. So there are different types of Méla. So and so one is temple troupes. So temple troupes are all troupes in Yakshagana. Almost all troupes are associated with a deity or with a temple and a deity. Like we are associated with Idagunji Mahaganapati. So many, there is Katil Durga Parameshwari, there is always Mandarti Devi troupe is there of that place, like that. In Uttar Kannada also there were many troupes before which were associated with different deities, and So like that, but that doesn't mean they are associated with the temple administration.
Correct.
Okay, so we are an independent artistic troupe. We are associated with the deity but not with the temple. But there are some troupes which are associated with the deity and also with the temple administration, meaning the temple body runs the troupe or gives or leases a contract of that, managing that troupe to a person who is associated with the temple. So the finances of that such troupes are tied with that of temple. So these are called as temple troupes. But in Yakshagana, if you say temple troupes, so it doesn't mean that temple troupes are authentic and none of them other are non-authentic. There is no such. So this just the classification talks about association and the goals of troupes. Okay. So in temple troupes, for example, they are associated with temple administration and their goal is to do Yakshagana as a ritual. Okay, meaning that there is this tradition of mannat or harake in Kannada, we say, right? Like it's a kind of looks transactional, but anyway, so you go to God, you say that, if this happens in my life, I will do this for you. Okay, and for a lot of people that works, even today, and a lot of people keep doing that. We see all walks from all walks of society offering various things in kind and donation to temples because they asked something from the god and the god has given it to them. So Yakshagana is also done in that. So they are also called as Harake Méla. The temple troupes are called as Harake Méla in Kannada. Harake is this mannat.
And what is temple troupe in Kannada?
Harake Méla only.
Oh, only one.
Yes, that only. So because someone goes and asks the Devi or the Deva in the temple and say that, if this happens, if my son's marriage happens without any vigna, then I will make your troupe come to my place and dance or do. Okay. So like that, and so they do it as a ritual. Their goal is to fulfill the harake or the mannat of the sponsorer or the organizer. Okay, and quite logically it is connected with how any other harake would be connected with the finance and administration of the temple. This is, and the other one is commercial troupe. So commercial troupe have a model wherein they put up the tent which is closed and the shows are ticketed. They set up a stage in an open ground and they close it on all sides and people have to buy the ticket and go inside, sit and watch the performance. And so there the primary goal is to make that as a business and as a successful business, right? So that is the core issue. The finance comes from the tickets. So here the finance comes from the temple administration through devotees' contribution in temple troupes. And then there is troupes like us who are repertories or artistic troupes where our goal is to preserve and propagate and develop Yakshagana as an art form. So
your dedication is to the art form itself.
So our dedication is not in doing it as a ritual to fulfill someone's personal desire or something like that, or to make it as a successful business or grow economically. That's not our main goal. Yeah. So so we do Yakshagana performances in open field or in the auditoriums or temples, wherever we can do, there is a setting for performance. And there are organizers who call us for festivals or just for the sake of watching it. this Yakshagana being an event organizing event, so that is there. So we go and perform for that, for the sake of educating, preserving and propagating the art of Yakshagana. So that is the purpose of our organization. And then there is also another category of performance or troupe performance, where it is called as Hek Méla in Kannada. Hekku means to pick up in Kannada. Okay, we can define it as temporary troupes or something like that, where you ask any star artist, you gather some of them and you put some other artists and you make a Méla just for the evening or maybe a series of performances. You do it and then you are not a team anymore. You are a team for that particular performance or something like that, which is actually causing a lot of that structure is not helping Yakshagana as a field in preserving or developing the art form meaningfully. Because how do you become star artist? By popular incentives or popular media or something like that, and for that you do all kinds of things to become that, to gain that position. And then how do you make sure, see, when there is something temporary, people try to make it permanent, so there is no long-term goal, right? So you are not even bothered about the quality of the performance.
What will happen to Yakshagana later?
You don't have a zoomed out view basically. Right. Basically, you are looking at that particular evening's performance and how many claps and whistles will you get and so on. So that is also not helping, and the commercial troupes are also not helping. Actually, the number of commercial troupes have dwindled these days due to the heavy logistics that they have to carry, because they are taking their own stage and the tent with them. Idagunji Méla was also a tent. So these commercial troupes are called as tent Méla, okay, in Kannada. So they set up a tent. Idagunji Méla was for some time it ran as a tent Méla, but it failed as tent Méla. Okay. And we stopped it because Shambhu Hegde, who was grandfather who was managing this Méla, never had commercial interest.
Wow, yeah.
But how will you manage such big logistics and this thing? So his principles were artistic. So and his goal was artistic. So our tent Méla didn't perform well as a business, but it became very famous. Like they gained a lot of name in their performances. Again, so it was a artistic repertory when Shridhara Hegde started, and then it became a tent Méla, and now we are back to the repertory.
Tent Méla, sorry.
Commercial.
And also one detail, sorry, I want to share with the audience because it's amazing. Tent muritidru, andre so many people came that the tent would be destroyed. So during Shambhaja's time.
They used to break the tent.
Anyway,
there is no space inside, there is no ticket inside, but they want to watch the performance.
So it may be commercially not viable, but it made Yakshagana popular and made people come and watch.
And also a lot of things that Idagunji Méla has discovered or contributed has been a permanent contribution. Like it's an art form changing contribution. Like for example, if you look at Gada Yuddha, the Prasanga. If you look at any Yakshagana Gada Yuddha today, any troupe, any category, you will see that is done in the way how Idagunji Méla did it.
They set the benchmark.
Yeah. So lot of benchmark was set by Idagunji Méla in that time. And it's not like they have a special authority of setting benchmark. They are not government but audience and the response, it all happened so organically that now if someone wants to watch Gada Yuddha and Yakshagana, it is done like how Idagunji Méla people have done that. But
So it stopped being a tent Méla.
Yes, and then it became artistic repertory where we don't carry our tent and stage setup with us, but we carry our costume and those things that are essential to the art form. Those things we carry and we perform in various stages and occasions, so on. So we will discuss that in detail. So there are a lot of things that happens when you transform a Yakshagana text into a performance, and there are a lot of ways in which you can do this, right? So just like when you have a drama script, the same drama script could be done in different ways in a stage. So the dramaturgy of it, right? So that is there, but that this number of possibilities and variation goes even much more in Yakshagana, because Yakshagana script is not a drama script.
Correct. Yeah.
So if it is a drama, in drama theatre, drama script mentions a lot of things, and that also sets a lot of limitations, or gives a better picture of how this should be done, right? The scenery, the side notes, the footnotes, the dialogues are given, and what scene comes after what, all this is written by the theatre writer. But in Yakshagana, it's one long set of poems telling the story, which has all details that is needed and a lot of details which are not needed for stage. So there are much more ways of presenting Yakshagana when it comes to dramaturgy, making the script onto stage. Like we do it all the time. Almost all Melas do it all the time. Like that, they keep certain songs. They edit certain, as in like they don't sing all the songs, because if you sing all the songs, even whole night is not enough for you to do this thing. But a lot of songs have repeated concepts, or a lot of songs are just for audience to understand the context of the story, which is done through other mediums like dance, dialogue, and they are all covered in that. So you don't want to keep a song for it. So like that, you have to go through a whole work of doing dramaturgy before you make any Yakshagana script into a stage play. And this can be done in multiple ways. So we call it as prasanga nade.
Yeah.
Nade is the path. What path would you take? Yeah. Or how do you create a path for this text to be on stage? So you can have so many multiple nade for one particular text. So the nade that Idagunji Méla discovered for a lot of prasangas are the benchmark now.
Yeah.
I mean, there is prasanga nade, there is patra nade also.
Yeah.
So given this nade for a prasanga, there are multiple ways in which you can do the patra also. Okay. So patra nade of a prasanga was also a benchmark way of taking up Yakshagana performance that is set by Idagunji Méla. And even after you have a prasanga nade and patra nade, you still have so much room for improvisation. That's how each performance becomes different. Otherwise, any Yakshagana Gada Yuddha prasanga people would immediately recognize it as, oh, this is how Idagunji Méla does it. People still recognize it, but actors build on it.
Correct.
So there is a room for improvisation. So see, again, the improvisation doesn't mean there are no cues or there are no points to hold on to or anything else. So it means there are different ways of approaching it. Yeah. Improvisational theatre, it doesn't mean it's structureless.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So there are a lot of things which will, so we can call it as anchors. So there are so many anchors with which your improvisation works.
Correct. Yeah.
And you have to discover these anchors, and you also have to find a path of these anchors. Okay. And with all that said and given, you can still improvise, and that's how it works.
Wow. So, no, I also want to take this opportunity to share something with you. Last week, I was in Yellapura, which is about 100 kilometers from where your village is, and I was working on a project of my own, and but somehow we bumped into a lot of people who brought up N.S. Hegde, who also shout out to the family because he's a very big name in the Yakshagana scene in that part of the Uttara Kannada district. But they were also mentioning Shambhaja and your family, Shivram Hegde, and how they have interacted in the past, and they were remembering the characters played by your grandpa and your great grandpa, and of course uncle Mahabhala.
Yes. Yeah. So so Keremane artists are Keremane Shivram Hegde, who is my great grandfather, and then there is Keremane Shambhu Hegde, who is my grandfather, and then there is Keremane Mahabhala Hegde, who is my grand uncle, cousin of Shambhu Hegde. Belonging to our own family, like another branch. And then there is Keremane Gajanana Hegde, who is brother of my grandfather, younger brother. Yes. So they have contributed. So there was a point when all of them formed Idagunji Méla, and but there was a point wherein only Shambhu Hegde was leading the troupe and so on. But Keremane artists as a whole have contributed a lot in different aspects to Yakshagana, and in Patra Chitra, we call it as Patra Chitrana. How do you picturize a character in this thing? So these are not even talked in a lot of forms, because these are all given things by the poet himself, the one who writes the play or one who writes the things. They themselves would have done all these things and written a play or a dance script or a choreographer or a director, right? But here it's all created as we go, because poet is just talking about the story and suggesting raga and tala, and that's it. So, and I guess this process is very similar in other sister art forms, because in Kathakali also, I guess it's just a set of poems that is written and sung. Everything else is done by the artist. So how will you say that there is no similarity? There is so much similar, and there is I think it's the same thing in Terakuttu and Kataikuttu also. They also improvise on dialogue, if I am not wrong, but they have a script that is orally sung and maybe even written. That is sung, but other dramatic aspect, dramaturgy is all, Patra Chitrana is all. So, see, all these things have to be studied in the indigenous context.
Correct, yeah.
Only then, in the indigenous framework, only then would you understand the relations. Even to talk about similarities and differences, first you have to have an indigenous framework of categorization and understanding for all these art forms. You can't take some structures from some other culture and some other region and try to see it in the. I mean, you can do it in that lens, but that's not a complete study.
But we have realized that it is not adequate, right? It's not that we shouldn't. Okay, sure, we tried, but it's not able to hold the structure that's present here.
You keep breaking the existing structure, the academic structure, in defining things. That means your structure there is some problem in the structure, right? So I mean, see, in science, if you frequently bump into a theoretical structure that is obstructing or that is contradictory to your experiment, you would change without any problem, right? So we had Newtonian mechanics, the classical mechanics. We started seeing so much of that classical mechanics problem when you classical mechanic point of view when you go into smaller dimensions like atoms and so on. Like an object can be particle or a wave, which you can't explain in classical mechanics. What did we do? We had a new structure, which is meant for such.
That's the humility that science enables.
Yes, isn't it? isn't it? I mean, when that structure was being brought up, there were some people who were, even Einstein was not happy with probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics. So he said God doesn't play dice. So he went beyond Newtonian structure, but he was not happy with probabilistic nature in the beginning. But then he accepted, or the whole science accepted it, because the experiments were proving it. I mean, that was the best structure to explain the phenomenon. So when you talk about scientific mentality and scientific approach, all this has to be considered. The history of science has to be considered, and how people have reacted to new experiments, phenomenon, and all has to be. And see, one more thing with science is it's not culture specific.
Yeah,
like when you talk about, you are specifically looking at universal ideas that are not cultural specific. You don't talk about curry in science, right? I mean, but you can talk about molecular structure and how they combine, which is not dependent on a culture, right? But here you have to see that it also changes with culture. So in that context, you really have to change the structure of it in context. You can find out an underlying structure of arts or performing arts, but that comes much later. First you have to be able to find out a structure that explains the existing phenomenon. For example, Noam Chomsky, right? So he talks about universal language, but not until the structures of indigenous languages are figured out would Noam Chomsky talks about a universal language, right? I mean, so you have to have the grammar of Sanskrit is different from Nairobian language or English or Asian Mandarin. So all these are individual structures. So first we have to figure out what are those structures, and then would you look at the common structure and talk about a universal
framework based on
expand the framework, or look at the general ideas.
maybe go hand in hand.
Maybe go hand in hand, or yeah. But there is the projecting one particular structure on everything else with maybe a prejudice that this one particular structure that I have seen is a universal structure is unscientific. That's not even how science works.
Yeah, no, that's another thing. If you come with prejudice already, preconceived notions, then there is no growth. Sure, we could be wrong when we are discussing these things. We could be happy to be also, but that should also be like a two-way thing. Those who it's not a contest, right? I mean, we are here to learn and that's a nice way of looking.
So that's exactly how, see, and these structures we might start like doing it for arts and so on, but they are also talking a lot about culture and Indian philosophy or indigenous view of the world, which is important in policy making, right? I mean, so it's not just some categorization of arts and terms. So from these we are tapping on to the world view of indigenous culture, and this world view should and will enable policy making, governance, priorities of the society, and yes. So see, today we talk about soft power, but how do you know what is your actual power unless you have discovered it in a structural format? And what are you projecting onto other culture if you are talking about soft power? Is it just Bollywood music? No, that's not just, that's part of India, but not all of India. Correct. Right? So you must look into these structures, and anyone who is thinking of, we call about Vishwaguru Bharat and soft power, all other things, right? So it is very important that you look into performing arts of India, the authentic, original ones, rural artists. Don't just take some artist who is famous and make them a world tour. That's okay, that's one part, but also go to the rural areas, look at the tradition and the sensitive aspects of these literature and art forms, and then with that understanding, with the new modern language that needs to be connected with the global community, you make that framework or an explanation, and with that explanation you take this art form, make them go everywhere in this thing. By that process, what are you doing? You are telling the indigenous narrative both verbally and non-verbally. You are telling it, and then you are also showing it. You are showing in the sense you are making the audience experience it. So I think that is the approach that we have to, even within India, I am saying. So we always talk about, I think we have neglected a lot of cultural nuances and inclusivity of Northeast.
Definitely.
Isn't it?
We know very little.
We know very little, and we don't. Lot of us don't even care, and we don't even our picture of Indian culture and cuisine and all discussion somehow end after Kolkata. It doesn't somehow come into the main this thing. So, but
it's
how
like
do
South Indians are all Madrasis?
Yeah. But at least when you talk of India, you have these two categories of North India and South India in your head. East India doesn't come, isn't it? Or Northeast doesn't. So I'm just taking one example. So even within India, this exploring the indigenous structure of art is different and is important to make us stand all together. Isn't it? Just going and delivering a speech or just telling something that our ancients did great things, they flew vimanas or something like that, that doesn't help. So yes, the groundwork, and that looks like arrogance for a lot of cultures, saying that we did so many things in the heart of India and you are part of it. Oh,
sounds hollow after.
Yeah. So that's not. That's not how you approach things. So.
And within
Karnataka, I mean, there are so many areas where Yakshagana people don't know. People in India don't know that we can have a contemporary dialogue with epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata.
We're going to talk about that for sure. I want a whole new episode on that one. No, we will definitely. No, and on that note, you also said that a lot of people get confused, again, within Karnataka, the difference between Bhuta Kola and Yakshagana.
Yes.
So that's something we will probably explore.
Next episode,
perhaps.
Yes. And also one more thing that I want to mention, that so these, I was talking about ways of communication, isn't it? And how art helps it. So there is a 3-level classification of ways of communication or convincing in Indian understanding, okay, which is Prabhu Samhita, Mitra Samhita and Kāntā Samhita. Samhita means that which dictates a rule or something like that. So Prabhu Samhita is authoritative projection of rules or of a set of thoughts, okay, onto someone else. Mitra Samhita is how a friend convinces someone else. Okay, so like Prabhu Samhita is how a boss would tell an employee or something like that, where it is authoritative in nature, or how it's like how police enforce law or something like that. A lot of people don't like it, isn't it? And that doesn't transform, in most of the case, that doesn't change anything in them. In the rebellion, and they will just do drama of doing that for the sake of that. So that's what happens in Prabhu Samhita. And then there is Mitra Samhita, how a friend convinces someone else, right? So it's not imposing, but it's also educating.
Gentle.
Yeah, a little more gentle than Prabhu Samhita, talking about pros and cons and so on, but it is still has that intellectual element in it. And then comes Kāntā Samhita, how a lover would convince, a partner would convince the other, or wife would convince husband, or vice versa. So there the communication happens without communication, as in without the formal ways of communication. Subtle. It is so subtle that by the end of it you really are transformed, and you will imbibe that in your life without any command or this thing, like right, isn't it? I mean, a conversation between lovers, for example, for a third person it looks stupid or it's just out of context, but by the end of it there is a transformation. So art is defined in Kāntā Samhita. Yeah. So it's an indirect way of communication. It's a way of transforming the information or transforming the understanding itself. It's not even insertion of a thought. It is experience of the thought or the wisdom which helps them transform, and that is Kāntā Samhita.
How beautifully
isn't it?
Right?
Yeah. So all the Lalita Kalas, all the performing arts or the visual arts that are in Indian tradition are supposed to behave or are part of Kāntā Samhita, where without you can have a Prabhu Samhita like performance in a performance also, but still it is in the larger context it is seen as a performance and comes under a stronger Kāntā Samhita maybe. But the traditional aspect of approaching, how we do the Purvaranga and how we do the Arati after it, and the humility with which we approach the subject and how we disperse the knowledge. So all of this is transforming the wisdom without in the normal ways of communication, and that's how we should engage with communities.
Wonderful. So hold that thought, Kāntā Samhita versus dance and drama. So and also we're going to wander in a lot of more abstract topics in the next episode, I suppose, because Kāntara fans, we're going to talk about a lot about nature, spirits and everything, and Yaksha, the name itself also connotes that. So thank you again. Here is an appeal for you to support Keremane, Yakshagana, troupe. Maybe if you're an organizer of any kind of performance, you can reach out to Natana Yaksha here, Shridhara Hegde. You can also follow Keremane Yakshagana on Instagram, which is Shrimaya Keremane, Idagunji Méla on YouTube. I'll leave the links in the description box below for all of these, including Shridhara's social media handles. So yeah, keep an eye out for the next episode. For now, thank you so much. Thank you, Shridhara.
Namaste.